Hi again. After a short walk, several piddles, a good roll in the grass for him, I am back again and ready to get going. He is napping in the corner, so it's all good. He's so funny though. He's very, I don't know if any of you have Shih Tzus, but they are extremely stubborn and he is very stubborn. So when he decides something, like that it's going to be his day with Mummy, then that's it. There's no way to change his mind. So that's what he's been doing all day, is being very demanding. And he's so cute and so sweet, and I love him so much that I just can't resist. And especially after yesterday, he was such a good boy, so he gets what he wants most of the time. And let's see here. Do I want this one? So, as I was doing before he got all excited, is starting to come in with details. I'm also going to show you some of the highlighting as well, because that's something that we're going to be doing. Some of my paintings have like these little dots and sparks in them too, which I love doing. And I feel simply because she has those sparks in her, that sort of hair section there, I feel like she's going to have something like that going on. So right now I'm just sort of mapping in where her lips will end up being eventually. I know they're not there yet, but they will be at some point. So for now, I'm just sort of, and again, it's not a heavy layer, it's just adding a color. It's kind of the purple that I was using before, that wild, funny purple. So I'm just kind of adding some of that in. I tend to, when I really enjoy certain colors in a painting, like there's some colors that I will change each and every time, and then some colors that I just love using. Like the turquoise for me is a perennial favorite. It always makes me feel good. It's one of those colors that just always makes me feel so joyful, and I love looking at it. So I tend to use it in almost all of my paintings, simply because it feels so good to have in the paintings. And then some colors I'll change, like you can see here I've got more of that bright green, and I'm going to be mixing with the white some of the yellow and some of the lighter colors, and I'm going to go back in and highlight those. I'm keeping the fish. I don't know why. It seems strange. Some of my paintings have animals in them, some of them don't. Apparently this one has fish. Who knew? It's the first. It's the first for everything, I suppose. But they were in the vision, and it's not something I would think that I would keep all the way through, but I'm just kind of enjoying those little guys. So I guess they're going to stay. And that's what I'm up to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep working, because I've told you basically now what I'm doing. And I'm just going to put some music on, and I'm going to do it. So I hope you enjoy, and I'm just going to do this thing that I love doing, which is just getting right into the painting, because this is the stage really where you get into the deeper symbolism, and you'll notice that new symbols will pop up in your paintings, you're gonna come across that. It will feel strange, and you'll have to kind of wonder how you're gonna work them in, but you'll get there. I promise. Just trust the process. And if some new symbols come up, that's great. If they don't, that's fine too. And you'll notice that I'll do the highlighting on different parts of her face, and I'll do the highlighting. I can't talk and listen to music at the same time. 1 second. There we go. So I'm going to do different highlighting parts in her face, and that's going to go quite quickly because I've already built up, like each layer I've done a little bit lighter, and then when I went in with the shading, I literally just deepened the shadowy parts and left the lighter parts. So going into here, doing more stars. This tree feels, it's going to sound really funny, but this tree set feels turquoise, like bright turquoise to me. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. So I'm just going to stop talking and start painting. Hopefully you'll paint along and enjoy, and you'll get to see me mostly finish this painting. Yours will possibly be finished, possibly not, but work by the time, this is all done. But just keep working on it until you get it to a place where you feel like there's no more you want to do to it. That's basically the only way that I can describe knowing when you're done, is that you have a feeling that there's nothing else you want to do, to touch, to add, to put a little color on, something like that. So as you work, just watch for that feeling. And I'm going to paint. And I will be here. So. If I do something new or unusual, I promise to try and remember to explain it. It's not always easy. And I'm basically going through with this yellow and highlighting all of the things that feel like they might stand out a little bit more to me. I'm starting to work in those layers with my symbols. And the process itself becomes very meditative. You just sort of are going over some of the marks that you had before and highlighting them, bringing them out again, just showing them a little love. Things like leaves and dots and things can become very meditative and calming. And again, I'm not being super specific. I'm not trying to make anything perfect. It's just marks that represent a feeling or an image. It's funny, I'm running out of this yellow, but I'm also kind of feeling like it doesn't really go back here at all. It's like a little bit here and there, but it doesn't feel like it's full leaves like it is out here. So it's quite interesting. No matter how many times I've done this, I'm still totally fascinated by the process. So you'll notice that I call it interesting quite often because I still find it interesting. More yellow. In some of my previous videos, if you've watched me paint before, I've talked about these little mixing tubs from, sushi or takeout. They're great to save and have on hand for using to mix paint because you can actually get your paint to last much longer than it might otherwise do. And you can absolutely see my fish still don't look like fish. They don't have to. I may or may not get super fishy with them. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. And things like the sparks and the leaves and the things that I know that would just get progressively lighter, I just keep going. I mix a little bit of a lighter color, a lighter shade of what I was using before. So that I took that yellow and some white and I made a slightly lighter yellow. And then I'm just going to go in the middle of where I have this yellow that I've put. And I'm just going to, right in the middle of them, because it's going to be lighter again still later, with white. So I'm still leaving myself room to go in again with a smaller brush and a lighter color. Because what that does is create a wonderful layering depth to it. And you can do like a really specific earring if you have a particular pattern that comes to your mind. But for me, mine are usually almost like a little bit of a crescent. And then sometimes they have things hanging down from them. So I don't know. It's a little bit different every time. These are the jasmine flowers because I know each progressive layer of them is going to get a little bit lighter because I kind of want them to be almost white flowers at the end. So I'm going in with the lighter yellow, but instead of going on top of the flowers I painted before, I'm doing a separate layer of flowers. And the ones that are coming over her shoulder are a little bit bigger because for some reason I feel like they're closer. But it is all such a process of just feeling into the painting and seeing what feels right. It's less about planning and saying, I'm going to put a thing here, and more about what feels good in that spot. Especially if it's something that's based off of your visioning. It's really good to listen to what feels right at this stage, as opposed to trying to make something happen. And as I said, it can happen that new symbols will start to come as well. Simply because you are in that listening state of mind. And the layering of flowers thing is totally different from anything I've done before. So I really don't have any idea what that's all about. It's quite interesting to me. And I'm just mixing it directly with my brush, like I'm not getting super fanciful about it. Still not striving for any sort of perfection. The fish in my visioning reminded me a little bit of I don't know if you've seen Disney's Fantasia, the original one, but they kind of reminded me of those fish, which was interesting. So I'm just kind of going with that, really. Steal some white from over here because I need a little bit more. That's why I put a couple blobs of things on my palette so that I can grab some more without having to go back to the bottle all the time. And if I accidentally mix a color that's a little bit lighter than the one that I was using, then I go back and do highlights on the other things that I did before, since I'm using those colors anyway. It all kind of works out in the end. This one I just want to do just a little. He's not going to get a lot of highlighting because he's behind everyone else. So I don't feel the ones that are back here don't really need a whole lot of definition. I don't think, anyway. But you can see the changes that are happening just by doing those few things. A little fin down here. A little fin that goes behind there. One of the nice things is if you want to have like more of a translucent feeling to the fins, you can just go back and wipe off some of the paint. It'll leave some behind and then some that won't stay. It'll leave like a little trace of it behind. And then in here, I'm just going to go, I'm not going to do a lot of these ones, just a couple. Here and there, because I feel like almost feel like this tree and the fish and parts of her are sort of made of light, you know? And you can see I've still got the spiral and everything in the back there. I have intentionally not completely painted over it because I feel like I'm going to bring it back out again. I still feel like this tree is going to be turquoise, but I'm feeling like he needs some kind of texture, but I guess a little bit of bringing him forward again because he seems to be disappearing a little. So I'm just going to go in and give him just a little touch. And it's not even, there's no detail to it. There's no... I'm not getting super specific. I'm just touching my brush to the canvas wherever it feels like it wants to go. Reaching for another brush, sorry. Didn't mean to get all up in your face there. I do feel like she's carrying on with a lot of these really warm colors, which I love so much. I'm going to wet that down a little bit. Sometimes I do it dry brushed and then rub on with just a very, very, very little tiny amount of paint on my brush. And other times I will go in and wet the canvas and then spread out the paint that way. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling at the moment. I suggest you try both ways just to see what you like best, because it's different for everybody. Everybody likes a little bit different technique for applying highlights and stuff. So I definitely suggest that you try a couple different ways and see what feels good for you. Because it probably will be totally different for each person. I think I'm going to switch to that little container of yellow that I've got going on over there. Just because I know it's already mixed to that light shade that I really want right now. And you can see just by adding that, and you can do it, some people like to do it with really firm strokes like I did in the beginning layers to create more of a, almost a graphic feeling to the highlights. But I know for myself, I prefer, especially for this particular painting, sometimes I do more graphic, but for this painting really in particular, there's such a softness to the way she feels for me that I'm really trying to keep that soft feeling. I'm trying to keep it so that it's not super hard, not super graphic this time. Because it really does feel for me as though it's a much different feel for her. And I think in this time especially, there's part of my subconscious that is telling me to be softer and kinder to myself, to not push myself so hard. I am very much a doer, as it were, so I tend to try to do as much as I can all the time. One of my phrases was definitely, I don't have time, or I should be doing other things, that sort of thing. So, and that's why, is because I feel genuinely that there's always so many other things I could be doing. And you can see I'm just going in and highlighting the spots on the face that stick out. So like if you feel, or if you look in a mirror, the tops right here, you can see there's like a little bit of light on there, a little bit of light here. It's usually lighter up top here on the nose. There's going to be, you can almost see it, the shadow that I'm doing is going to be across here. And then, well, I don't have to do her chin because I got that thing in front of it, so. But it's good when you're doing this part of the process, when you want to do the highlights on the higher parts of the face, that you have a little mirror so that you can look and see where the light does in fact hit. Because it will really help you to see what you're doing. Like, you're still not copying your face or any kind of actual face. But at the same time, you are trying to bring a little bit of that feeling of realness and relatability to what you're doing. Like this point of it, this point of the painting process, is when you really start getting into bringing it to life. Like this is when she really starts to come forward. I really feel like this video is getting very long. So I think I might stop it here and come back again shortly. See you soon.